So there's been a lot of discourse recently about a large portion of the player base severely disliking Set 10, going so far as to call Set 10 the worst set ever, even worse than Set 2. That portion is the Chinese community, which is a huge part of the player base. These players love the high risk, high reward aspects of TFT, like the risky econ traits and pursuing incredibly rare highs like 3-star 4 or even 5 costs. But Set 10 has numerous mechanics and brought huge nerfs to bag sizes, so that playstyle will now be punished extremely heavily. While this adds an entire new dimension to TFT's competitive side, it also removes a lot of fun from the game. But what can Riot do to cater to every type of player? Can they ignore this portion of the player base? And why do I relate to these same problems? But before we get into that, remember to subscribe. So of course you could say that these players should adapt or just get better at the game, something like that. But that's such a stupid sentiment. Remember that TFT is a game and people should enjoy playing games, otherwise what is the point of that game even existing? And honestly, I kind of agree with them. I personally love playing dumb comps that are clearly not meta, but they're ridiculously fun nonetheless. For example, if you've been watching my streams or you saw my guide on Garen reroll, then you know how stupid and fun those comps can be. I've been having so much fun forcing comps like reroll Garen, reroll Gragas, and reroll Cassante. I'm working on videos for Cassante and Gragas. But researching and trying these comps was incredibly difficult, where if I was remotely contested, it was impossible to hit. And I don't think I've won a single game where I went Garen, Gragas, or Cassante reroll. In all of my games, I just lost to some meta comp and the fights just weren't even that close. Leduc also touched upon this sentiment, where it just feels like the meta comps are vastly superior to everything else, so why bother not playing meta? For me, that sucks so much. I couldn't care less for the meta comps. In fact, I try to avoid them because they're so boring, common, and fully explored. I'd much rather play a comp around a unit no one plays because that is so much more fun to me. But unfortunately in this set, that is an insane struggle and a massive reason why I've come to already mildly dislike this set. If you want to try a comp or augment you saw in a stream or video, then that's really difficult to do in this set. It's pretty insane going from being able to play and force any comp you want in Set 9 to the completely opposite side of the spectrum in Set 10 where it's insanely difficult to force anything. And that's why I relate to this outcry from the Chinese players. Like me, their playstyles become extremely punishing to play. So you either have to change your playstyle or you just don't play the set. And as Tanner says here, these players do not have the time to dedicate to TFT, so it's difficult for them to adapt to a new playstyle, especially considering how complicated Set 10 is with numerous layered mechanics. Which brings me to my next point. Set 10's complexity is really high, and this is not friendly to new and returning players. I've already gone into depth about TFT's complexity in this video, so I won't do that here. But what I want to stress is that TFT's complexity will likely be this high for the next few sets, so it's a huge concern for both myself and possibly these players, as the TFT we've come to love will become vastly more complicated and become less and less appealing. You may even get some complexity whiplash when you're hopping from set to set with high complexities every 4 months. That's a huge concern, especially with 3 different teams working on 3 different sets. They may just be way too different from each other and really unfriendly to transition between. I am worried that TFT is becoming less and less casual friendly, which can lead to a very sharp decline in its player base. However, I am aware that this set is more competitive now, and many competitive players love this set due to that. But as Kana puts it here, some of those players do not care about TFT's casual audience. I personally care far more about the casual audience than the competitive side, but I still think both should be able to coexist. This isn't just a problem in TFT, but in most games out there. It's a really difficult challenge to keep the game both fun and entertaining whilst also being balanced and competitive. I remember having a lot of fun back in set 6.5 because it was so unbalanced and you can pull off so many silly comps. But I'm also aware that some competitive players hated this set due to those balance issues. And that's why it's difficult to strike that balance between competitive and casual players. Competitive players would err on the side of balance, while casuals like myself would just care about having fun and nothing else. But the larger question that arises is whether or not Riot should cater more to the competitive or casual side of TFT. For example, as Tanner states here, TFT is not considered a competitive game in China. But the key word here is competitive focused. TFT is not solely dedicated to competitive players, to which I would agree. In my opinion, Riot do not ignore the casual player base, and they do make decisions including as much as the player base as they can. I mean, it's pretty rare nowadays for games to be competitive only, as that's really not profitable. And that's because the game wouldn't be alive without a player base. I don't think any company should cater their game to a small portion of their community. That just sounds like an any % speedrun on killing the game. But of course, a thriving competitive scene is important to the most dedicated players, as they would aspire to be included in that scene. This set is really skill expressive, and a lot of competitive players have been asking for a set like this for a long time. So, while some players consider Set 10 to be the worst set ever, there's an equal portion naming Set 10 as the best set ever, and Riot somehow need to strike the perfect balance to cater to all those audiences. But you really should not underestimate the size of the casual audience. Even the world's best League of Legends jungler, T1 owner, plays TFT on stream. But all in all, this situation is really worrying to me, and I hope Riot come up with a good solution for the future of TFT. As Bryce puts it here, this is very scary news for every party involved, and honestly, it seems like no one can win. I have heard some suggestions to have a separate game version of Set 10 in China, but that is just not fair for competitive Chinese players, as they would basically play an entirely different game in any international tournaments. This solution does not maintain any competitive integrity in my opinion. I personally believe that all of these issues stem from the headliner mechanic. If Set 10 didn't have it, then the bag sizes could stay the same as it was in the past, and this set would be incredibly less complicated. Of course, removing Set 10's core mechanic will not happen, but hopefully with Set 11 the bag size changes can be reverted to what they were before. And honestly, I think that will be enough to solve most of these issues. But yeah, now I should pass the question over to you guys. What do you think? Can this be solved by just reverting the bag size changes, or is there a better solution that I'm missing? Let me know in the comments, and remember to subscribe. Anyway, check out these other videos if you want to see more from me, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.